Hey guys, welcome to Carnivorous Plants Hub. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make distilled water at home, basically DIY style, with just a few things that you will probably all have laying around the house anyway. So let's, real quick before we get into actually making the distilled water, I just wanted to go over some reasons why people might want distilled water or some uses for distilled water. For me in particular, I use mine for carnivorous plants. If you're unfamiliar with what a carnivorous plant is, that's awesome. Go over to my channel, check it out. It's actually bug-eating plants that are actually considered carnivores, so it's actually super cool. So you probably heard of the infamous Venus flytrap, but there's also other plants that do a lot of bug eating. So go check out my channel and check out some really cool plants. But some other uses are like a CPAP machine for medical reasons. Can be used for a humidifier or a diffuser, basically anything that converts water into steam. What happens is the minerals will actually back up inside of that, and it'll kind of mess it up because the water that comes out of it is without the minerals, so it leaves all the minerals behind. So you can get a lot of those hard water mineral backups inside of a diffuser or a humidifier or CPAP machine. And a lot of people like to drink distilled water. So if you like to drink distilled water, that's awesome. I don't know a lot about it. I don't drink distilled water. I've heard it's unhealthy. So do your research if you're drinking distilled water and make sure that that's something that you want to do. So, all right, guys, making distilled water. So let's go ahead and check this out. This is everything that you need actually right here, including some stuff that you probably don't necessarily need. But you want something to put your distilled water in. You can see I have a distilled water container here. You don't need to have a distilled water container. You could have like a milk jug or anything, 2-liter soda bottle, whatever. Just clean it out. Funnel so that we can transfer the water over to the said jug. I have actually a TDS meter here, and this is just for me in particular. This is because I need to measure the water just to make sure that it is completely removed all the minerals. Otherwise it'll kill my plants. So I need to really make sure that the water does have no minerals in it. So the main thing that we're going to be using though to make the distilled water, a metal aluminum bowl here. You just want to make sure that this bowl will actually float on water. That's the most important thing. You see I already have my pot full of water here, and the way that this is going to work is pretty neat. But you also need to have, so you need your pot, you need your bowl that floats on the water. You also need to have a lid for the pot, preferably one that's a little bit bigger than what would normally fit the pot, so it's a little bit oversized. And that's actually pretty much it. Then you just need some water, and then obviously you need a stove so that you have the burner so that you can actually get the water boiling, which is something you'll definitely need for this. But so the way this works is we have our pot full of water, we have our bowl floating on top of the water that you can see is empty right now. You don't want to get any water in there. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to boil this water, and we're going to put this oversized lid over this guy upside down. See, so you have the handle to the lid, and what's going to happen is when this water boils, the condensation is going to come up to the lid to here. See how it's covered right here, but it's going to come up here, and then what's going to happen is that since there's a slope here, this water is going to roll down to the handle, and it's just going to drip down into the bowl, and then you accumulate water dripping down into the bowl as your distilled water. Then what you basically do from there, and I'm going to be showing you this whole process, so stick around, is you're going to take your distilled water from your bowl and you're going to get it into your container. And I will make sure, I'm going to measure water before with my TDS meter so you guys can see how many parts per million it is, and then I'll also measure my water after just so you can see that it actually is distilled water. The other thing that I'm going to go over too, guys, which is really important, I'm getting fingerprints all over this so it's kind of gross now, but the other thing that I'm going to go over is I'm going to talk about how much water I made. I'm going to talk about the energy consumption that was required to make this water. So we're going to go over kind of how much it costs to make this water. And then we're really going to kind of just talk about, like, is it even worth it? Like, does it even make sense for you to make distilled water at home? Is this something that you would be better off buying? Or is there a device out there that'll make the water, a little bit faster than this? So we're going to talk about how long it takes, the cost of it. We might even get into like the cost of how much it costs to get distilled water at the store, including how much it costs to get gas in your car, and then how much it actually costs from the store. So we're going to talk about different costs and just kind of just in general how long this takes and whether or not this is something that will be worth it to you. But let's go ahead and jump in and actually start making this distilled water. Alright, so let's get this process started of making distilled water in your home with stuff you have laying around. So what we're going to do real quick, guys, is I'm going to measure this water real quick. We're going to see how many parts per million it is, just to show you that this is going in as non-distilled water and then coming out as distilled water. So let's go ahead and measure this real quick. It just takes a couple seconds. I don't know if you can probably see that. It came out to, it's about 95, 96. It gets up to 100 sometimes. So that's where we're at with the parts per million. We're at about 100. You can see 93 right now, and that's just leaving it in. First thing we're gonna do is we're going to grab our bowl. We're gonna put it in there and take our lid. We're gonna put it on top. We are going to pump up the jam on the burner down here. I'm gonna put it on high for now. And then I'm going to kind of measure to make sure that the water's not jumping out, because you also don't want the water to boil up and over and into your pan, because then that'll kind of mess up all of your distilled water you've worked so hard to get. So you kind of want to keep an eye on it and make sure that the water doesn't boil too rapidly or too hot. I'm going to leave it on high now though, so we can just get it going, and then we'll cut this for a minute while this water starts to boil. Or we're at 4 seconds. Just turn the burner on. I'm not going to stop this. I'm just going to let this guy run this whole time so we can see how long this entire process takes and how much water we get, distilled water we get with this entire process. So, alright guys, we're about 4.5 minutes in. You can see my timer right there. You can already see there's already some condensation starting to build up here just after a couple of minutes. So I haven't seen any drip down yet, but it's definitely starting to build up just after a few minutes. So, okay guys, we are about 8 minutes into the process here. And you can see already there's a lot of accumulation up here. You can see it's really starting to drip down now. You can see some over here. Like I said, just 8 minutes in, it's already starting to drip down. And actually, we do already have some. You can see down in the pan there. There's drops of water that are already hitting the little aluminum pan on the inside. So it's definitely already working. Also, guys, I just want to take a real quick moment to thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it so much. I'm making this distilled water to give to my carnivorous plants because they don't like regular water and the minerals. My dream is to actually start a carnivorous plant nursery someday, and I want to thank you so much for being here. Whoa, look at that steam coming out. I gotta turn this down a little bit. Hold on. Woo! A little too much. So I'm gonna turn that down while we wait for that to cool off just a little bit. I'm going to continue on saying thank you so much for being here. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. Those things are a way to support me, and I appreciate you so much. Even if you're not here for carnivorous plants, hey, go over to my channel and check it out. Carnivorous plants are awesome. You might find something that you didn't know about some really cool plants. But yeah, again, thanks so much for being here. Like, subscribe, all that nifty stuff. And hey guys, a quick update too. I actually forgot to mention this. A lot of people suggest that you put ice cubes on the top here, and apparently that's supposed to increase the production of humidity you get on top of your pan. I don't know for sure if that works, but the only thing you need to make sure with that is just make sure that you're emptying this out as the ice cubes melt, which I'll probably show you here in just a minute. But real quick, we are 10 minutes and 38 seconds, and you guys can see, I think you can see, let me see if I can get around the steam a little bit. If you can see down into the pan there, it's actually really starting to accumulate already. The bottom of the aluminum pan is actually already partially full. Okay guys, ice just all completely melted. We are, I don't want to drop it or stop it, we're about 18 minutes in, a little over 18 minutes. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first actual update here of what we have inside of the aluminum pot. So there we go. You can see the bottom is almost full. So after about 20 minutes, just under 20 minutes, we got a decent amount there. So we'll see. We'll see how long this guy takes to fill. I'm going to add some more ice onto here. And then, like I said, we're going to dig into all the numbers at the end of this video so that we can decide whether or not this is something that is worth it, that you want to try, or maybe not. Alright guys, we're at about 32 minutes. So let's go ahead and take a look and see where we're at here. 30 minutes into it. Now guys, it's also important to point out I've been putting ice on here. And now I need to be real careful when I lift this up, because what could happen is I could spill that ice water into the pot. I'm going to dump this out real quick. But if you spill that ice water into there, ooh, got my camera. If you spill the ice water into there, the problem is that now you don't have distilled water anymore, because the ice water has not been distilled. You can see it's leaning a little bit. I would say that probably just the bottom quarter inch maybe is full right now, if it was actually sitting level. But let's go put this back on. Alright guys, we're at 1 hour and 9 minutes. So let's go ahead and take a look and see where we're at now. I did have to bump the power up just a little bit, like a low medium, to get it boiling again, because it did stop boiling on completely low. It didn't stop boiling, but it just wasn't producing that much steam. So let's go ahead and take a look and see. So after about an hour, you can see that's where we're at in terms of distilled water. It's actually really leaning for some reason in there. It's not staying even. So it looks like there's less than there actually is. So, but I can't really say for sure how much is in there yet. So we'll make sure and measure it though. Okay guys, we're just a little over 2 hours, 2 hours and 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and see where we're at here. This has been running pretty continuously. I did have to pull everything out once and then actually refill the pot. It was getting pretty low. It wasn't all the way out, but it was low enough to where I thought maybe we should go ahead and refill it. So that's where we're at right now. There's a pretty decent amount in there. I don't know how much exactly because it's rolling around like that and it's actually hard to see how much is in there, but not a bad amount. So that's kind of where we're at. Alright guys, as you can see, we're at about 3 hours and 18 minutes, so about 3 hours 20 minutes, and we're going to see how much we got. Okay, so let's take this, I got a silicone glove here. It's allowing me to grab this lid, so be careful, this is very hot. Oh, got steam there. Okay, so I'm going to get all that out of there. Move this over to the scene. You can see it's getting to the point to where we need to do this anyway, because there's so much in there that it's starting to kind of roll around, and if too much more got in there, it would be getting close to kind of tipping over. So grip, and it's really hard with this glove. Okay, bada bang, there we go. So there is, oops, hold that right over the steam. There's the distilled water. So what we're gonna do guys real quick is I'm going to measure this for you. Got the silicone glove. Let's go ahead and get the water in here and see how much we got. Okay, let's see. So it looks like we got exactly a cup. 1 cup of water. 3 hours worth of, almost 3.5 hours worth of boiling got us exactly 1 cup. So let's go ahead and test it real quick and just make sure that it stays distilled. And we don't have some water in here that's not as described. So let's see. So you guys remember, I think it was like 93, 95 when it went in. Let's go ahead and see here. Okay guys, I don't know if you saw that or not, but I was pretty upset. TDS meter read over 60 parts per million dissolved solids in that water, and I kind of freaked out. I got a little mad. I was a little upset because I kind of thought that my whole video was going to have to be scrubbed. So I was kind of pouting a little bit, because if you know anything about carnivorous plants, that's the whole reason I'm doing this. That water needs to be under 50 parts per million of dissolved solids in order for it to be good enough for carnivorous plants. I can't use it if it's over 50, and I was getting a 60 reading, so I assumed that my whole distilled water experiment was completely shot. Now, with that all being said, I'm glad that my wife is smarter than me, because she said, hey, what if it reads higher when it's hot than when it cools off? Which I thought was completely silly, so I kind of scoffed at that idea. Well, it turns out, guys, science is pretty cool. I did some research because I just wanted to make sure that my reading wasn't inaccurate, and it turns out that it is 100% true that dissolved solids will pick up higher on hot water than it will on cooled off water. So the water's cooled off to room temperature now. Let me put this in here so you guys can see the reading. So now we're reading closer to 30. So we're well within the range now that we need to be in for this to be good enough for carnivorous plants. So that removed approximately 30% of the dissolved solids out of the water. And I'm just going to read this real quick to you guys so you can understand the science behind this a little bit, so that I'm not just making this up. You really should only measure the TDS at around 77 degrees Fahrenheit, so around room temperature. Maybe I'm a little bit cooler right now. I think I'm at like probably 70 degrees in here or so. Basically, TDS meters are electrical conductivity meters. They don't measure ppm directly, which is parts per million. Hot water has higher conductivity because the water molecules ionize more at higher temperatures. So it fools the meter into thinking that the mineral content is higher. Mineral content is the same in your water when it is hot and cold, but your meter gives erroneous readings if the temperature is above 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So there it is. I measured right out of the hot water and it gave me like a almost 70 reading. But now that we're cooled off, we're at room temperature, I'm at a 29. So the experiment is a success. And I actually think the reason that it's at 29 versus 0 is I know at one point I came out and the water was boiling pretty vigorously, and I'm assuming a few drops of water kind of bumped into the bowl as it was kind of moving around in there. I had to turn it down a little bit. So when you guys are doing this, make sure that if you get that vigorous boiling, you got to get the temperature down so you just get that kind of low boiling to make sure that no water boils over the side. I'm pretty sure I had a little bit come in. So, but either way, that's low enough for me to water my plants. Like I said, we got about 1 cup total. It's a little bit higher now because I put the TDS meter in there and it bumped it up a little, but all right, guys, we're about to dive into the numbers, but real quick, I wanted to touch on safety. Certainly, I don't want to release a video like this and not talk a little bit about safety. There was always somebody in the dining room, which you can see the kitchen from there. When I was doing this, I did not leave this unattended for the entire 3 hours and 20 minutes. Also, you do not want to leave your stove unattended for a long length of time. So do consider that there is a safety factor here. Please don't leave your stove or oven leaving for or on for that long. It's just really not safe. But let's go ahead and dive into the numbers here. So basically, it took us 3 hours and 20 minutes to generate 1 cup of distilled water. With that being said, there are 16 cups of water in 1 gallon, which would mean it would take us about 53 hours on a burner to get 1 gallon of distilled water. That's a long time. So let's talk about average cost of running a burner on the stove. Based on the averages that I looked up, obviously this may change a little bit from place to place, but you're looking at about 50 cents per every 3.3 hours. 3.3 hours is how long it took us to get the 1 cup. So we're basically looking at 50 cents per cup in terms of energy consumption. So 50 cents per cup, we're looking at about $8 a gallon with this method. So it's going to take you 53 hours and $8 worth of energy consumption to get a gallon worth of water with this method. Is it worth it? I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't think so. Is it worth it in a pinch? Sure. But due to the energy consumption and the safety risks, I would say this is probably not a great method to get some distilled water. If you are in a situation where you absolutely need it, you can't get to the store, or the store is out, your plants are dying, or you have to get some in your CPAP machine, you know what I mean? Like, there are reasons why you may want to use this method. So it's a really good method to know and understand, and it still has its value. But if you're just doing this to generate distilled water as an alternative method to going to the store and buying it, it doesn't really make sense. So when it comes down to it, guys, my verdict really is going to be go to the store, buy a gallon of distilled water. Also check the link in the description, because I'm looking into buying one of these for myself, but it's a 0 water pitcher. I've been doing a ton of research. It filters out all the dissolved solids, and they're only about $30. Now you do have to replace the filters for about $15. Each filter is going to get you about 20 gallons. So for $15, it gets you, that's under $1 a gallon, but you don't have to go to the store. You don't have to get in your car. You don't have to bump into people. So for me, that's totally worth it. Or as another alternative, you can get a water distiller. Water distillers go, this one that I like, it goes for about $80. I have the link for that in the description as well. You can make about 12 gallons a day with this, and it costs about 50 cents of electricity and about 5 hours on average to make a batch. So you're making 1 gallon for 50 cents, so it's lower. If you do all the math, based on it being about $1, $1.15 at a store, if you spend $80 on the unit, you would make about 160 gallons before that thing paid for itself. So yeah, so I mean, there's some other alternatives there. You guys, it's totally up to you on if you want to use this method. I'm probably not, unless I absolutely have to. But guys, thanks a lot for being here. I hope you found this video interesting. Also, please make sure and subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Give it a like. I'm actually going to start testing out some other alternative ways to generate distilled water to see if there's something out there that makes a little more sense. I noticed that there was a couple different ways, so stay on the lookout for some more ways to generate distilled water at home with things that we have laying around. I think there might be some better methods out there, but I don't know. We'll test it, we'll run the numbers, and we'll see if it's something that makes sense for everybody. So thanks a lot, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in my next video. Bye.